Well, dear friends, welcome to the live visits of the European Historic Houses. My name is Henrik Kreutz, and I'm a member of the Executive Committee of the European Historic Houses. I'm also the owner of Mangold Estate here in Finland. Last year, we at Mangold had the chance to show you around at our home. It was great fun. Even if people weren't physically here, I felt the presence due to the many people that were following us at that visit. It was also fun reading the comments, the nice comments on social media after this visit. Today, it's a great honor for me to do the introduction of the second round of this year's edition of live visits. We started already last week with 3 visits. In total this year, we are presenting 13 houses in 10 different European countries. Now, due to the pandemic, when traveling is difficult and these live visits makes it possible for us to share and enjoy culture and history. But before we go over to the actual program of today, I would like to mention the possibility for young and future owners of historical buildings in Europe to become members of the European Historic Houses Association. Please go in on our website, europeanhistorichouses.eu, where you can find more information about Next Gen Europe. Today's live visits consists of 3 historic houses across Europe. 1 in Finland, here in Finland, 1 in Romania, and 1 in Austria. The first place we are visiting today is Viurila in southeastern Finland. And it dates back to the 15th century. It's a beautiful private home, and we are happy that the owner of today, Anne-Marie Aminov, is willing to open up her house and show us around in it. Without further ado, I introduce you to Anne-Marie Aminov at Viurila. Thank you for me, and enjoy this round of live visits. And goodbye, and I hope to see you soon again.
Hyvää iltapäivää ja tervetuloa Viurilaan. Nimeni on Anne-Marie Aminov ja tulen tosiaankin kertomaan tänään Viurilasta. Kylläkin sitten kieli on englanti, mutta tervetuloa mukaan. Good afternoon and welcome to Finland, to Viurila Manor House. My name is Anne-Marie Aminov and I'm the 7th generation of the owners here in Viurila. And I'm standing by the manor house, and it's a private home. My parents are still living here with the dog in the 1st floor, and we are going to the 2nd floor. But about this house, I'm standing now on the staircase that is from Gotland, the stone, and the house is Bassi, who has been the architect, and they have started 1806 to build this, and this was getting ready 1811, and it was Arfeltorp, as you see up the names. And so please come inside. Now when we are going up, you can have a look on the family arms that are on the wall. It's the owners of this house, beginning from 1500. And the two last ones, they are my ancestors' Armfelt. And the stairs up to the attic. Our ghosts are living there, but we have just nice ghosts here. And this hall, it has a quite beautiful floor. You can see it's huge planks, quite wide. And of course, the Armfelt family in the pictures. And here you have Gustav Armfelt. He did own Åminne. Åminne is quite close by us, Åminne Manor House. And the first telephone. And then we are in the main room of this second floor. We have the hand-painted wallpaper here and the furniture from late empire, and they are from 1830. And it was very usual in those days that you should have 2 mirrors, 2 fireplaces, and so on. And then we have the beautiful roof painting here above the chandelier. It's made from paper, this chandelier. And somebody has painted over the paintings in the roof. I don't know why. But we have the arms of the family. In the corners is the first Armfelt and Bennarstedt. And they are also here as a picture. Magnus Wilhelm Armfelt and his wife Maria. They did buy Viurila 1787. And in those days here was just a very simple wooden house. And they had 2 sons, Gustav Maurits, who is there, and his wife Hedvig de la Gardie. Gustav Maurits was a person who had the Swedish King Gustav III was his good friend. And he did get Åminne, and his brother August Philip is here with Lovisa Taube. He did get Viurila, and it was him who did build this house with his wife. And that's why we have here in this corner is Arfeltorp, And then we have their son, Magnus Reinhold, and Vava. And it's so that she was also born Armfelt. That's why we have in the other corner Armfelt in the roof. And Vava, she was a very important person in Viurila, because through her came the big money here, and her father was Gustav Maurits Armfelt, and the mother was Princess Wilhelmine, who became Duchess of Sagan. And now we have a look of her beautiful picture. Here we have Sagan, Wilhelmine. And Wilhelmine and Gustav Maurits, they had a love affair, and it was quite big scandal. And they had to go to Germany, and Baba was born in Germany. And to avoid this scandal, that people would know what's happened, Gustav Maurits asked his small cousin to come there and take this little girl in his name. So in the paper, it's standing that Fredrik Armfelt is the father. And they went to Poland, to the castle of Sagan, and we have a little picture here of the castle. After a while, Gustav Maurits did take this little girl to Vienna, and after that he went to Sweden to his wife Hedvig, who were working in the court and taking care of the little prince there. And when Baba was playing with the other children, Gustav Maurits noticed that the wife is staring at the little girl. And so he told her that, you know, my cousin is so poor that I thought that we could take care of this little girl. Oh, Hedvig was staring at the little girl and saying to Gustav Maurits, do you know, this little girl is looking like you. And so he had to explain the truth. And it was lucky that Hedvig had a huge heart, and she was getting very fond of Vava. And Vava's mother did give a big, huge money to the daughter. And with that money, they did buy 25,000 hectares in Ladoga. And with the rest of the money, they did build our household building. It's so that we have rain day in Finland today, so we didn't go there. So here we have a picture of the building. It's Engel has been the architect, and it has get ready 1836. And as you see, the columns are not like Engel have. Because of Armfelt, it put some thickness on the columns because they thought that they are too thin. And what was it in this building? Here was the horse stable and the cow house, and in the attic it was high, and grain store, and the last one was apartments for those who were working here. Nowadays, I have different companies renting space. So here is a ballroom, meeting rooms, and restaurant Club Engel. And then we have two different museums. It's horse wagon museum with Armfelt wagons, and household museum with furniture and clothes from this house. And then we have a golf club The golf is surrounding this building. Here is 18-hole golf course, very lovely. And then here are some apartments and 4 guest rooms, hotel rooms. And in the summertime, we have expeditions in different buildings, so you can visit them. And then we go back to the big room. We have the balcony. It's made in Fiskars, 1836. And a little bit view of from the sea. We are by the sea. And of course, the horse stable. Here is 20 horses and a lady taking care of the horses. Then we have August Arnfeldt. He was a great farmer here, and he was married to Sigrid Kreutz from Malmgård, Lovisa, and August. He had also alcohol factory. He were making 110,000 liters of 80% alcohol in 1 year, and a lot of other things. And then we have my mother's grandfather, Carl August Arnfeldt, and Juliane. Juliane came from Denmark, but I will tell you soon about the family. This room we are calling Standardsjölskarummet because here is my mother's father. My mother is born Anne-Louise Standardsjöld, and this is Jori Standardsjöld and Louise Arnfeldt, the daughter from Viurila. And of course, his father, Carl August Standardsjöld, who had Enso Woodside. And his father is over here, and he had the gun factory Tuula. And then the library, and it's also Carl August Arnfeldt's study. He were working at this table. I think it was quite nice space to work. And here we have my mother's grandmother's family. So that they were related because here is Juliane's grandmother, Matilde Arnfeldt from Åminne, Finland. And she married Vedel Jarlsberg from Norway. And they got a daughter, Louise, and Louise married Hoppe from Denmark. And that's why Juliane is from Denmark, and she met my mother's grandfather there, and they married. And then we are going to the dining room. But I'm sorry, you are not getting any dinner. This is the main dining room in this house. And before the new kitchen, the kitchen was downstairs in the cellar, and it was quite a long way to come up here and keep the food warm. So they had a system, and it was quite nice. It was the old microwave oven, so they were keeping the food warm here. And then we have the nice planks, long planks here in the floor. And the china, it's from my mother's grandmother. I have inherited it. It's for 36 persons and it's hand painted. So now I think it's time for me to thank you very much, European Historical Houses, for the opportunity to be with you today. And then I wish that you have a nice flight to Romania, to the estate of Zabola. So thank you. Bye-bye.
I would like to welcome you to Zabola Estate in Transylvania, Romania. I'm Gregor Roy Chowdhury, one of the owners of the estate. We are, to put it more in a geographical position, in the middle of the country of Romania, on the foothills of the Carpathians. Behind us, we have around 60 kilometers of Carpathians no man's land with bears and wolves, sometimes even entering the property. Now what you see behind me is today used as a family home. It is the Mikes Castle in Zabola. The building originally dates to around 1500. The lower floor has up to 2-meter thick walls, and the middle floor has vaulted ceilings and painted with frescoes, which we renovated. They have been painted over, interestingly, by my great-great-grandmother. She didn't like the style, and we, after we took over the buildings, rediscovered them and renovated them in around 2009. The way the building looks today is from the 1860s, when my great-great-grandfather and his second wife, Sophie Moser, returned from exile after the 1848 revolution. You can see on top the family crest, on the left side the Mikes family crest, and on the right side the Moser family crest from Schaffhausen. The family was from Schaffhausen, and they were as well founders of EHH, for example, the watch company, and many other companies. The building used to be, or the property used to be a fortified with 2 lines of walls, one relatively close to here, and these walls have been demolished after the 1848 revolution to create an English landscape garden. One of the architects working on that was Achille Duchesne, the French garden designer who, for example, worked on the Blenheim Palace in the UK. Around the turn of the century, another building was created, the so-called Newcastle, which we today use as a boutique hotel, and that's where we'll be walking now towards. However, I would like to point out one more building, which is towards this direction. It's the so-called Swissvale, remembrance of the Swiss ancestors. This was brought here in the 1890s from Vienna and assembled, and is now used as a private home as well. But let's continue to the new manor. What you see towards the back is part of the 60-hectare park, which we try to maintain. What I forgot to mention, however, is a little bit on the history, what happened. So in 1949, the building was expropriated by the communists, and my great-grandmother, the last owner, was taken to the Danube Delta to a labor camp. And in communism, the property was used as a youth camp for children, and later, and after the change, a home for mentally ill. We immediately after the change tried to recuperate the building and fought many lawsuits against the Romanian state, which we eventually won in 1999. And by 2005, we finally managed to take over the property and start restoration and renovation of the buildings. Until to date, we renovated over 4,000 square meters, but we are still going. Now, the two buildings, the old manor and the new manor, are connected by a tunnel. The tunnel used to be an escape tunnel from the old fortification, and when they connected the two buildings, when they built the new building, turn of the century, they used it to connect the two buildings with a big kitchen at the bottom of the building, and the food used to be brought up through the tunnel below the building to the preparation kitchen and through a small staircase to the dining hall. What I would like to show you now is our little tunnel here, which we currently use as a wine cellar. And at the end, it's still hosting some beds, but otherwise we don't use it anymore for bringing food up to us. We will now go a little bit into the building, back over the bridge, which the guests are using. So the guests used to use turn of the century or until the Second World War, when they were guests of the family. Now the building today has 11 guest rooms and hosts the big kitchen. It's a boutique hotel with all in all 24 rooms, but only 11 are here, with an average size of over 50 square meters, quite comfortable with open chimneys and freestanding bathtubs. Now let's enter the building. So here we have the old staircase, which we managed to renovate and keep. The guest rooms are on 2 levels, and we are now entering the lower part, passing by our reception, which is hosted in the old tunnel. And now we come to the lowest floor, where we created a little bar, followed by our so-called break room, which is used for dining, and our lobby, which is used for most of the meals and dinners. Here on the left side, you see a chimney which we created from old pieces from other parts of the buildings. On the left side, you see the Mikes family crest, and on the right side, the Betlen family crest. There was a couple living here around 1700, Mikes Betlen, who lived here, and above the old family crest as it is used until today. Now we are passing the guest area and entering the park, which is mainly used by guests. In front of us, the old books area, which we managed to renovate, and the fountain. And if we slowly turn around, the current guest house. And there's another building, the so-called machine house, which is a 300-year-old structure which used to host the electricity and the water pumps and so on. And above it is a Fachwerk construction from turn of the century. So this is our second guest house. And here's Sándor Lajos, our main horseman, with our 2 Székler horses. We have started breeding horses a few years ago, as the family did over many generations. And now we continue our tour. The alley you see has been created for my great-grandfather's brother who died in the 1848 revolution. And in remembrance, they planted the alley, which luckily didn't get destroyed by the communists, and the park remained more or less intact. After the alley in front is the so-called Old Saddle House. You see now here the old castle, the new castle, a newer pond which has been created by us. Above is an older pond which has been created in the 18th century. At the end of the alley is the so-called Old Saddle House, which is used as an estate office at the bottom, and on the top we have an apartment for guests. We are now in the more actively used part of the park. So as I mentioned at the beginning, it is around 60 hectares, and this is a more intensively used 14, 15 hectares. To the right, we can see our event building, which used to be the old stables for the horse cart. But at high times, there were more than 290 horses constantly here and sold to the army. This was for the private horses with marble floors and marble sinks. In the First World War, however, the stud had to flee in front of the front towards Hungary. It was incorporated into the Hungarian state stud. Later in communism, this was used as a school building. But when I moved here in 2002, most of the roof got collapsed and we had to totally dismantle the building. Here you again have a nice view, seeing the two manors, the old one and the new one, which are connected by the tunnel and the bridge. Here I would like to show you our conservation program. We manage large forest and agricultural land, and created a biodiversity and wildlife protection and habitat protection program and a wetland creation program. So this is something we do in addition via our family foundation, but this is another topic. So I show you now our the old stables, which more or less have two rooms, two large halls, which we use for events, for-profit events, but as well for many cultural events and non-profit events. We have the so-called red room with an open chimney and high ceilings. The building originally is around 250 to 280 year old, obviously changed over the centuries and adapted now to this modern use of for events. Here is our event hall, followed by the garden, which is behind the event building. The final place I would like to show you is our horse start and riding area. This was added. It used to be part of the park, but we added it not so long ago. We started to breed. Sigler horses, which is a local horse bred around 145 centimeters high, and another line we do is English thoroughbred mixed with Arabs and creating Anglo-Arabs. So here we have some kids. Hello. The riding area opened. We just opened a cafe today, our Riders Club, and we have here a riding area where we wanted to host a riding event this year. However, due to the pandemic, it was not possible. Hopefully next year we'll continue with these efforts. So here you see our little clubhouse and the stables for the around at the moment 20 horses. So little foals, many of them. Here we see one of our Sekla ladies. We have Shari, our Sekla stud, and in the middle we have here Kati and an Sekla Arab mix, which is a young foal. So I hope, yeah. The last room I would like to show is our tech room, where we actually spend quite a lot of time. I hope you more or less enjoyed your stay here and eventually will visit us in Transylvania, Romania. Thank you to the European Houses Association, and I hope you enjoy your next visit in Austria. Cheers.
Grüß Gott und Glück auf vor dem historischen Turnhaus im mittelalterlichen Bergbau Hütten. Hello and welcome to the historic Turnhouse in the medieval mining village of Hütten in Leogang. My name is Andreas Herzog. I'm Deputy Director of the Museum of Mining and Gothic Art Leogang, and I'm delighted to show you around. But before we start, let me give you a short historical overview. Leogang is located in Austria, the western part of the province of Salzburg. Until 1504, the Turnhouse used to be a residential and defense tower at the border between the Archbishopric of Salzburg and the Duchy of Bavaria. After 1505, the region next to Salzburg belonged to the Tyrol, then part of the Habsburg monarchy. And in addition, the ores of the renowned Leogang's mines were smelted here. Thus, the name of the village, Hütten, means smelting. And next to the Turnhouse are several historical buildings. The Baroque St. Anne's Chapel from 1770, the historical Hüttwirth Tavern from 1521. So this year they celebrate its 500-year anniversary. Over there is a late medieval forge. This house, where once the smeltery had been located, and the administrator house from 1593. The administrator house is the original museum building from 1593, and it is connected to the newly renovated Turnhouse by an underground passageway. The Leogang Mining Museum Association bought the imposing Turnhouse, thus saved the house from destruction. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please follow me inside the Turnhouse Tower. Salzburg's most exquisite tile stoves from around 1550, displaying scenes from the Bible. Originally, this stove was made for a castle near the city of Salzburg. Later, Emperor Francis I purchased it for the Franzensburg Castle near Vienna. And since 2 years, the Museum of Mining and Gothic Art Leogang has exhibited this tile stove as a loan object from the Museum of Applied Arts in Vienna. This historical front room also brought richly carved regional furniture from the 18th century. Please take a look and follow me into the next room. In the corner, you can see remnants of velvets that were replaced by a wooden ceiling in the 18th century. In this empty showcase, we will present a very important coin, about 2 weeks, the famous Salzburger Löwentaler. There are only 5 Salzburger Löwentaler coins left worldwide. At the time, the mines of Leogang and the Turnhaus belonged to the last Prince Archbishop of Salzburg, Hieronymus Graf Colloredo, who presumably had this coin minted from silver mined in Leogang. We dedicated this room to Bishop Vitalis of Salzburg because he is the saint once missionized in the Leogang region. And this door is a masterpiece of regional craftsmanship. Please come closer. Can you see the vari-colored inlays and the outstanding forging? And we will leave this door now. Follow me. This room is dedicated to silver mining Saint Anne. She is the grandma of Jesus. This was the miner's granary. I want to avoid talking too much about the museum part, but I think especially in this level, it's important to say something about our collections. Cattle breed and with artworks of renowned European artists like Pablo Picasso, Alphonse Walde, Anton Felstow, and so on. And on the right side, you can see the original Turnhaus wall. And just a few steps away is the next room. An old ceiling. We kept this original roof truss during the renovation process. We just cleaned it with soap and water and supported it with additional beams. Now, this room is home to our exhibition about Emperor Maximilian I, with, for example, an original woodcut by Albert Dürer. At the end of the hall is one of the 5 most important Arab lists made of horn and sinew. And in the center is the famous prayer nut of Mary of Burgundy. This prayer nut is a portable miniature shrine that displays Emperor Maximilian I with his wife Mary of Burgundy, as well as the mining saints St. George, St. Catherine, St. John, and St. Barbara. And now follow me to the top floor. At the left side are 30 paintings of traditional customs worn by the proud miners for special occasions. These are historical plans about the mines in Achtal in the neighboring Bavaria. This is the top floor. During the renovation process, we exposed this impressive road construction from the 16th century. At the time, the Turnhaus was sold to a private owner. but private owners were not allowed to build buildings of 3 stories and more. Therefore, one level had to be removed. Today, the wall ends up here, and the windows reaching up. This high hint of this modification. During the renovation, we found several interesting vaulting objects, like a wooden shoe, documents, and a lot of glass under the bottoms. It was quite common in Salzburg to vault several objects, to vault in several objects. And hundreds of years ago, it was common to vault in also animals, so that their souls would take the evil spirits away. Today, it's home to our cabinet of mountain curiosities that visualizes the miners' pride in their profession and status. And last but not least, let's explore the basement. Enjoy the noble atmosphere, meanwhile, of an outstanding historical turnhouse. Taking monumental preservation into account, the turnhouse was carefully renovated. 50-year line from nearby lines, with untreated regional spruce wood, with marble from Athen near Salzburg, and a copper roof that alludes to the copper mining tradition of Leogang. The indoor climate is constant, humidity and temperature, due to these thick walls of natural materials. And the original turnhouse basement ends here. During the renovation, we linked the basement of the neighboring house, the administrator house, with the basement of the turnhouse, with an underground exhibition. Now, this hall hosts an important part of the most renowned exhibition of the Habsburg monarchy, the collection Albert Victor. The neighboring room is an important part of the most important private Gothic collection of Salzburg, the collection Karl von Frey. Inside the room in the middle are the classical treasures of Salzburg around 1400. And last but not least, we're in the middle of the famous Gothic collection of the famous art collector Rudolf Leopold, who is well known for the Leopold Museum in Vienna. And right here in the front of our cast stone Madonna from Leogang from 1400, I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining this tour. Many thanks also to the European Historic Houses Association for the possibility to present the Turnhouse in Leogang. And we would love to welcome you to our Turnhouse and hope to see you soon. Auf Wiedersehen and farewell.